Overflow.
That
Overflow
one
was
too,
like
yeah.
so many versions.
Yeah.
So many versions. So there wasn't one moment when it was like, oh, the inspiration is now. It's like that moment happened, but it was just the vocal on the chorus or just the intro of the song, and those were months apart.
There are many moments.
Yeah, lots of little. But that's the beauty of working on one song
Yeah.
over a longer period of time and not just like doing it in one day. The beauty of coming back to it and continuing to take cracks at it is that you give the opportunity for lots of lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Yeah, like you kind of consistently get re-inspired. What inspired you to begin with, then when you take a break, reconnect, inspires you again.
Yeah, that's right.
That's interesting.
That's right.
Can we talk about Two-Faced?
Yeah.
The guitar is incredible. Sick.
Thank you. I'll tell Brad you said it. I mean, Brad and I wrote the guitar on that song.
Are we like very selective as to like where it goes?
We don't care very much. We kind of just do whatever.
It's not true. Not true. Two-Faced, caught in the middle. The dark's too vivid. The light's not
Is that
fair.
your line? The dark's too vivid? I don't remember
Nope.
which one of us.
That's you.
Is that me?
Yeah.
I
think caught in the middle,
say
I
it,
think
but
was that one.
I was
Yeah.
just thinking of like who wrote the word.
That's you.
Because we were just, I haven't mentioned Colin today. Colin Britton is like, he was like part of the process just as a writer and a co-producer. Like I just love working with Colin. I had met him in sessions and then was bringing him in to help with writing and production.
He's added a lot to this band too.
And then
Yes.
eventually we were like, hey, dude, like, turns out we need somebody to play drums. So like, I know that's his primary instrument. So I was like, is that something you would want to do? It would mean stepping away from your like production career.
Wasn't it the thing where it's like, well, we need somebody live. So do you want to
Live.
play guitar or do you want to do drums?
Oh yeah. Originally it was like,
Take your pick.
we
It was
were,
kind of like that.
we didn't know. Yeah. Cause
Just
Brad,
very, just like, you know.
we knew Brad is, in case anybody doesn't understand the dynamic, like our guitarist Brad is our guitarist. He's in the band.
Yeah.
But he's realized that in terms of his like, it's kind of like a mental health thing. Like he doesn't love the touring and the live show lifestyle. And so he is our guitarist, but he's not playing live. So he found a guy named Alex who's spectacular, really good guitarist, and they get along great. And Brad chose Alex to play his parts live. So, but at the time we hadn't met Alex, and so we asked Colin. I was like, you know, Brad needs somebody to play guitar, and we need a drummer. Like, you do both equally well. What would you want to do? And he was just like, kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
Just like, I can't believe I think he said, I can't believe what you're asking me right now. So excited.
But again, like another testament to what you've created and built, right? Like this desire, then the instant, like, yes, I'll drop by like a seasoned producer, a fantastic musician, both of
Yeah.
you. Like the idea that like, yes, I'm going to park my stuff and also like, it's a collective thing now. It's also the universe.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's right.
A lot of stuff falling into place.
Well, and Colin and Emily, like originally, if you had talked to us in like 2019, like we were just looking for a singer, right? That was the role to fill. And as things evolved, it became what it is. And I realized after we launched, like actually it was as the week of the launch show, like a little over a month ago, the pressure was on. Everything was about to happen. Nothing had really leaked.
It's
Like
crazy.
we were all like,
How did that happen?
we were all so nervous too. And we were just like, we have so much to get right. Don't mess up anything. Don't miss a beat. Like, let's just get it right. And I watched Colin and Emily have each other's back. Like they were like, we're the new guys. Like we got it. Let's rehearse more. Let's get everything right. And they kind of went on their own and spent time together to like work stuff out that we knew because we've been doing it for 20 years. And I realized, oh my God, like we accidentally ended up in this wonderful dynamic where they've got each other. They can both go and like besides the playing, like relate. They can talk about it and be like, can you believe we're sitting here doing this? Like, this is weird. And they had those, I've heard them have those conversations. It's awesome. It's the best. You should talk about it because I shouldn't be talking about it.
No, you're right. I mean, it's like one of those things where I'm like, I couldn't have done this by myself, like being the only, like how it's like a blessing to have had him have this whole process with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until it started getting, like the pressure was on and we were like, oh my God, like we have each other for this. Like this is, again, like it was the universe. Like I don't think I would have taken it so much, like as much grace as I have without him, you know? And because they're all seasoned in this. So it's nice to have that person where it's like, everything's so exciting and new, just like, you know, and you know, we're just like, what the fuck? Like what? Things that they're just like do, you know, as like anybody would look and be like, fuck, Emily, like how crazy is this? I'm like, yeah. So that's basically how Colin and I talk, like, what the fuck, you know, like as fans, you know.
Emily, when Mike first tells you that you guys are going to do live shows, like where do you start? Like, do you just dive into the catalog or ask Mike for a set list? Like, where do you begin?
It's a good question. He definitely had like this is what we usually do live. You know, these are the ones that go very well. And it's like a very long list. So I didn't really have to have something exact. You know, I was just like, well, I got to get fucking started. You know, like this is going to be a lot. Like Colin and I were, you know, practicing months before, you know, like in his studio and just going over and like just trying to get these songs to feel like mine, you know. And some of them were a lot harder to do because like the older ones were harder. Even though I knew like when the song starts, like I know how to sing it, it was harder because there's layers to it where it's like years. I don't know why. It's
mental
like a
layers.
mental, yeah.
And
it's like there's so much more to uncover with the song to like really get to like, okay, it's meant so much to me and it's meant so much. It's like solidified in, like we're talking about the universe. It's like it's solidified in the universe. So now I have to somehow crack that and make that something that's relatable to me and to you as a listener.
Was that like...
So it's a lot
like
more
numb.
layers.
Like Numb, for example.
Yes.
It's probably one of them, right?
In the end,
yeah.
you know.
And you can't even think
even
about
Crawling.
it, right?
Yeah.
Well, Crawling was funny because Crawling was one of the... Okay, but she says that. But like, we were playing around with these like just what ifs, and we played it was acoustic guitar and Emily singing Crawling in my studio.
God.
That just sat down like, what about this? And she like, what key do we find? Do we sing it in? She sat there and just like belted it out one time. I was like, yep, that's the fucking song. Like, that sounds awesome. And what was great about it is, you know, for some people, the fact that it sounds different, they don't like that. They're not comfortable with that. I say yet, because I think the more they get like a little bit of exposure to it, some of them are going to come around and be like, oh, actually, I get it now.
Right.
But for me, I already am like accustomed to her voice, and I was ready to hear that. And when she sang it, I went, what I love about this is it sounds like the song. It doesn't sound like Chester singing the song. It just sounds like the song. It sounds great. So I was so like
it's the emotion
confident.
in it.
Right.
It's the emotion.
That's the part she needed to connect.
I had to.
Yeah. With.
That's what anybody's going to connect to, because when they hear that song, it is the emotion. Obviously, his voice is incredible, and you know it does other things, but like it's the emotion side of it that I had to. And it was easier for me for the emotion side because that album, like we talked about, was
it helped shape
huge for me.
The way you sing.
Yes, and how I wanted to emote as a singer, you know, and so. Just like what he was saying, it's getting that, like, the layers, you know, like everybody's so used to hearing it a certain way as well. That's like one of the layers, you know? And so having all that time with Colin and, you know, because he's a great producer. So he was able to help me in ways that I didn't even realize. You see what I mean? So it was like so many of these great moments where we're just like, oh my God, we needed each other, you know, and how it just like really came together, like with the band. Like it's like one of those things again, like where it's just all fell into place so beautifully.
It's really wild.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, on
You're
your
telling me.
side, how good did it feel to finally perform these songs again?
I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like part of it is like going from the band being like an indefinite hiatus or whatever it was. Like we didn't put names on it. It was just like, yeah, we're not doing anything. From it being that to like standing on a stage and doing it. I think there were all these weird little moments that were so surreal. One of them, just getting on a stage and doing it, getting in a room and doing it for the first time felt so cool. That was actually more stressful though for some reason. Like I felt like because it was so rough, you know, it was like, I hope we've set aside enough time
Yeah.
for us to, you know, to get this right.
Yeah, there
And
was
then-
that moment for
and
sure.
then yeah, but that's normal. I went home and I was like, oh, I'm stressed, but I guess that's normal. It'd be
because
weird.
you guys haven't played the songs in so long too, so that's
And we changed.
yep.
We were
some of the
changing.
keys,
We
yeah.
were changing keys on songs that we played for 20 years. I had to relearn "Breaking the Habit" from scratch practically.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, just because it had to be a different key. But yeah, I think the most important thing is that like for me, I can probably speak for, you know, the other guys too. It's like, you know, having a thing that you felt like it was taken away and then them being able to get it back. Like, oh, you can't play shows as Linkin Park anymore. Even though Linkin Park is like part of my DNA. It's like, you know, when everybody's got like a core identity diagram that you like. There's stuff like when you draw your little like this is who I am. Like if you ask anybody, like if you were to sit down with a piece of paper and like write down the things that make you you, that's a crazy exercise if you think about it. Like shit, like it's your like the things you love to do, your family. Like do you have kids? You have some love, you know, spouse, whatever. Like the things that make you you, and your beliefs and blah blah. Like really right in there in the middle of it is Linkin Park for me. And that's there are other things too. There are many other things too, but to have that one out was painful. So to have it back in was like, I mean, there's nothing like it. There never will be anything like it.
And to be fair, so many of the other things are connected to Linkin Park. So much of one's identity, life, everything.
Yeah.
And like your music.
Like you, for example, that you have an 18-inch Linkin Park tattoo on your back. I know what a big fan, like it's so meaningful to you
No, but
that the band is playing these shows.
But the other thing too is it does matter to so many people, right? Like there is magnitude to the art that you make. Like it is true.
I've seen there was on our YouTube page, one of the first episodes of we have this thing called LP TV, and one of the first episodes was about the first few shows, LA, New York, and there's a fan who has all of our Chester and Rob included the original lineup, our signatures on has them tattooed on his arm, and I think I don't remember how many shows. He's been to over 50 Linkin Park shows. He's got tons and tons of Linkin Park related tattoos, among other things. And one of the things he said was like, he's like, I've got 2 spaces about like right here. This is where Emily and Colin are going to go. And I was like, wow, that's a crazy way to start this tour.
Yeah.
In
right?
that moment, do you realize that Linkin Park is actually bigger than any group or one person? It's like kind of a lifestyle and it's a culture
I learned
thing.
that, yeah.
and I say this with respect, like big.
How does that feel? Is that
I knew it was big, but like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like shit.
I mean, you could
crazy.
easily make the case that it's bigger than you. It's bigger than Rob. It's bigger than every.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes without saying though, because it's like even when we were talking about the lyrics and people like coming up with their own like identifying with
totally.
the songs a different way. We make a thing, it goes out into the world, and they connect with it on their terms, and that part of it becomes. I mean, that half of it, I don't know. That part of it is their thing now. So it's out of our hands. And it's the world's property, right? So it's Linkin Park memes, it's Linkin Park tattoos, it's animated music videos with the people who are editing Naruto with Linkin Park stuff. Like, I don't know. People do all kinds of, like, they make crazy things that are their, you know, the way they're relating to the music. They're having their experiences. They're going on road trips, listening to it. They're playing it for their children and having an emotional moment, a memory that they are creating that is completely a bubble that's their own bubble. And that if they remember, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
Kids, I watched a couple, we were playing a show in LA, and I watched a dad and his daughter, and she was like, this was years ago though, but it was like, she was probably like 13, 14.
Probably your first concert.
And she, when we played the newer stuff, she was elbowing him and going like this, blah, blah, blah. You could see her doing it. And then we played like One Step Closer, and he was like, okay. And he's like, has his arm around her. He's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, this is what, like, she was, like, they were coming at it from a generational, with a generational gap in between, and they both loved the same thing, and they were having this wonderful moment. It was really sweet. But I left there going like, oh wow, this is what it's all about now. It changed. Like, in the early days it was one thing, but now it's this thing, and I don't know where it's going to be 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
How does that thing influence from zero?
Well, I mean, that's kind of part of what the name is about. So the name is, among other things, one reason I liked the name is that it's being from scratch, from a blank canvas, right? And the other thing is that our first band was called Zero.
Yeah, with an
and
X.
It was XERO, and it started with me and my friend Mark. We were like probably 17, and then we wrote some demos and eventually brought on Brad and Dave and Rob and Joe. So this is that was the 6. And we got signed at that point, like later. Yeah, you know, we did a bunch of showcases. We tried to get signed. Nobody wanted to sign us. Eventually it happened. When Mark left and Chester came on board, and then we changed the name to Linkin Park. But the original band name Zero was, you know, I mean, in the beginning it was just me and Mark. So there's an element of this album that like gets back to basics that way. Like, it gets back to we tried to get back to the purity of like making music just for the sake of making stuff that we thought was interesting, making stuff that we thought was cool.
How do you achieve that in the actual process?
No expectations.
That's a good, yeah.
That's what we had.
Keeping the expectations out a little bit.
That's something you only have when you're young, really. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And we talked
you
about
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
Like, we get to make our first album twice. That's kind of what I thought with this album. You
That's
know?
cool.
And it's
Yeah.
a very definitive moment where it's like, you could do anything. And that is such a freedom to have in a band. And especially for, you know, Linkin Park being one of the biggest rock bands in the world, you know? And I think there's something very magical to first albums. And we got to do this, and it felt like a first album for us. It was great. Like that energy.
Interesting.
Couldn't have said it better.
What do you think?
That's right.
I just want to know how you approach that scream on Heavy as the Crown. It's a long one.
We have a video. You want to cut to it?
I will. We'll put that up. We'll put that up soon.
Yeah.
Or at some point soon.
I mean, it was the first time that we did it.
That was first take, by the way.
I was going to ask
The
how many
scream
takes.
that's on
Wow.
there, she did it a couple times, but
Yeah.
the one that's on the record is the first one.
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
There's a video. I don't know why it's not out. I thought
We're gonna put it out. I forgot we had it
Yeah.
when the song came out, and now I found
kinda
it.
fun
We'll put it
not
out.
to-
We'll put it
yeah.
out. It'll be on our socials at some point soon.
The intro of that song is really majestic. It's great. It
Which
feels
one?
different.
The string thing.
Yeah, Heavy as a
Oh,
Crown.
yeah.
Starts like in a really different way. I like it.
It's like I
It
had
feels
to,
orchestral. It feels, I don't know.
I made it was quite a process to make that sample. I mean,
It used
like,
to be a different timing too.
oh, that's right. Yeah, it used to be straight. It used to be da da da. Da, da, da. But no, it was da da da. Right, it was on the downbeats, and then Joe and Mike Elizondo suggested we do something to make it a little. I think they said groovier, and I was like, oh, what is this, like disco? And then we moved that little jog up, and it made it almost feel like Bollywood, which I liked.
Yeah.
The scream on Casualty, crazy.
Oh, just like
yeah.
the courses.
Yeah. I felt like they were screaming at each other. It was intense.
Oh yeah. That was like a thing where like let's do something different.
Let's
right?
do something different. I was like, I have an idea for how I could do this verse, but it might suck. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it that many times. And then I did it. And then Joe was like, so I feel like we unlocked a thing that Mike needs to do a lot more often. He's like, can you do that all the time? He really liked it.
How'd you get there? What do you think about?
Yeah, well, I grew up on, there's a very specific type of like heavy, it falls into the category of hardcore. Like people think of like New York hardcore or like straight edge hardcore bands. And if you're into that genre, which I'm not a tourist, but I'm not like super deep. But I do love bands like Strife, newer bands too, like Speed and Gel, and there's a band called, well, anyway, super duper rabbit hole. There's an aesthetic though of those types of bands, and I think my gateway into that was Helmet. Do you know the band Helmet?
No.
So we're actually, Paige from Helmet, we asked him to sing on a song on our album, The Hunting Party. And I've always just been a big fan of them. And they actually are going to open for us on our upcoming date in Dallas, which is like such a nice moment. Like I know that most of the fans don't know who they are. Their like biggest album was like 30 years ago. Like it's crazy. So I just love this band and I love that type of music and stuff like that. Like I think when I can tap into, you know, we were talking about like going back to the roots
I was
and
just thinking
like
that.
being a young kid, doing a record for the first time. That I think the yelling, screaming part for me, I don't really do a scream. It's just like it's like hardcore. It's like that's what I was kind of thinking of. I never thought I could do that. I think when I tried to, I was younger and my voice was higher and it didn't sound good. So now that my voice is like older, I thought it sounds cool now. More authority.
You tell them.
Yeah.
What'd you guys learn about yourselves from making this album?
Oh God, probably a lot. I probably need to not talk about any of it in a recorded format.
That's for my therapist.
Exactly.
How did you guys keep this a secret? Because when you were here in 2023 of last year, you said nothing. We were
Literally
asking you little
nothing.
questions. You played it off like nothing was happening.
Yeah, it was
I'm
tough.
proud of myself.
Yeah, you did good.
I was so tempted sometimes. I don't remember here whatever, but I was like, there were some moments when people would ask a question and I'd be like, oh, if you only knew, motherfucker. Oh, we were in it. Like at that time when I put out Already Over, we were making Linkin Park songs at that point. Like we weren't calling them Linkin Park songs, but we were involved. You know, we were getting busy. And I think one of the things that struck me is that keeping it a secret, like a bunch of people knew. They had to know because we were setting up things. Like we were having people come in and like write. We were having people, you know,
Shoots.
yeah, we were shooting things. We were
A lot of
asking
people
for
involved,
we were talking
yeah.
to openers. So that meant like other bands and management and stuff. And the only thing that makes any sense to me logically is that the reason it didn't leak is because people either liked us or respected us enough to not do that. And
Yeah.
so to me, that's like, was such a beautiful thing.
That's big.
Yes.
right. Like I like my friends even more now
Absolutely.
because nobody went out and was like, yo, did you hear?
Now, like in moments like that, you learn who the real ones are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Emily, did you keep it to yourself or did a lot of your friends and family know?
No, not a lot of people knew. I mean, we talked about this where I've just like, it was hard to go hang out because I didn't want to say anything. Like I'm having a couple drinks and I get excited or a song comes on. I was just like, I'm going to fucking say something. So I stopped going out so much. I kept a very low profile within that time. I was also very busy too. And I was just like very immersed in it. And I just wanted to stay in that zone as well. And just be like, okay, like it was very, very exciting for me. And especially in those moments of excitement, I wanted to tell people. So that's when I knew I had to step back a little bit. But when I started doing the work, that's when it became easy, where I didn't think too much to like have to tell people. But I definitely had to have like a, what are you doing? What's Dead Sarah doing? What's this? Like, you're in the studio? Cool. You know, like I had to like just kind of, yeah,
So you had to
just writing, just having fun.
answers.
Yeah. Be very vague, but yeah, very vague.
Has success been redefined at all with all of this for you?
For me, it gets redefined all the time.
What is it today?
What success?
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
I think part of it. I think part of it is part of it is enjoying what you do, to enjoy what comes at you, and to seek out stuff that you know you enjoy, or at least might enjoy. Because sometimes those things you might do something that is challenging or uncomfortable, but you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I know it might suck, it might end up being bad, but I'm gonna have fun trying it. So because I think new experiences are important. So that's a thing. And yeah, we were talking about all the little weird new things. Like earlier, we were joking about makeup. Like, having a woman in the band is a new thing. Like there's little nuances to like, oh, we can't just have everybody in the band like getting dressed in the same room, like running around in a towel. We used to just be like, whatever. I mean, we weren't like naked dudes in a room. We were both like, it was like a locker room, right? Like, and I was like, okay, so we got to set up our backstage a different way. Like, what's comfortable for you? And how do we do that? And also not be separated. Like, we want to be together and like, cause it's fun, but we also have to have some private space. So stuff like that, like, it sounds stupid. Like, it sounds like, okay, yeah, just figure it out. But to me, it's like, it keeps this thing that we've done for so long, it like turns it on its side a little bit, and you get to go, oh, that's gonna be different. That'll be interesting.
A new approach to something that you've gotten, like,
Yeah.
that again, like becomes just like muscle memory, an extension
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
What do you think? What's your success?
What? I'm still trying it on for size, man. This shit is like, fuck. You're a lot busier. It's a lot more work, but it's all worth it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so crazy. I'm still trying to like figure it all out. But it's like after this tour, I came back home and I was just like, oh, okay. It's not like it's crazy.
Was it
like,
too quiet? Did you have any moments where when you came home from tour, you were like, I got to get back out on the road again because it's too slow, it's too quiet right now? Or
not
did you
for the
enjoy
first
it?
week.
Yeah.
But once we started getting in the studio again, because I knew that, I kind of like mentally was like, okay, we're going to be in the studio, we're going to be together again. And then when we started doing that, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go on the road again. Like,
Cool.
It like ignited that, like, and you get excited.
Yeah.
Because it is like a high. Like it's it's a drug that you get used to.
Yeah. And it's everything I've dreamed of. Like, it's absolutely, I'm so fortunate to be in this position. Like, it's crazy. But like, I feel like I've been training to be in this position for a long time, with the style that I sing and like being in a band for so long. It's like, I feel like, it's like I've been training, but then when I get into being in this position, I'm like, holy shit, I have so much to learn still, and I always want to do a really good job. So I could be really hard on myself at the same time. So it's like, there's moments where I really, really enjoy like, oh, the success and stuff like that. But I'm like, don't fuck it up. There's like that voice and it's like, keep going.
I love that though. That's like one of the great things about you. One of the great things about everybody in the band is that like, I think everybody takes that very seriously. Nobody's trying to just be like coasting. Everybody's like putting in the effort.
Well, and that's what like changes, right? Like,
Well, I mean, but at this point, even for us, like 10, 15 years ago, I don't think I think that we even then were, you know, there was a potential for the band to be like a little bit jaded or a little bit like just like letting it ride a little bit. I don't think we really do that. We're just like, for me, I'm just too, I need to be, my mind needs to be occupied with stuff. Like I need to be doing stuff, making things. And
You produced 26 records over Twitch over COVID. Like that's, I didn't know. You didn't even know that, but you did. For people you
wasn't even
met,
counting.
you produced records for people you met on the internet.
that's true. That's true. I did that. Some of those were really good. I don't know, man.
No,
Like,
just a testament to the
they're
fact
all
that you
very.
need to be
It's
doing.
like, I don't know if they would have been better like Instagram Reels than like songs, but like still.
The more you know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah. I think part of it is another thing that we didn't talk about in terms of like what's a success is like community and making like connections with people. Like I feel like one of the things that's back for a lot of people is, oh, this band that I really enjoy is like active again, and we get to share this experience or share this energy, and we get to like do things like scavenger hunts online with them, play with them, right? It's playful. And I like to, that's a thing besides music, but related to music that I like to do, you know?
Music cultivates the community.
Yeah. I love that.
By the way, you can listen to the album From Zero. It's waiting for you on Amazon Music. Link below, code on the screen. What are you thinking?
I think we're getting the wrap up in our ears.
Nah, dude. I know. I really, you guys are really special. We're gonna get into like a track by track, so you can listen to the album in a whole new way on Amazon Music. Thank you for just being here, but also for making music and continuing to create. It really is
Thank you.
deeply, deeply appreciated. And
Thank you.
yeah, the music is really special.
I think our fans know at this point that I'm like I've become a little picky about who I want to talk to about our stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's like
yes.
it's I feel like I'm like becoming Sam Elliott. Just like, I'm getting too old for this shit. I don't need to be talking to all these people.
Your time and energy is very
And I love talking to you guys about this stuff because I just feel like, yeah, I feel like there's a mutual respect. I don't know if you respect us. You act like you do. I respect what you do. I enjoy the conversation. So thank you, man.
Real recognizes real, and I deeply do. And both of us, our lives have been shaped by the art that you made and the art that comes to life. So yeah, right?
We've always loved Linkin Park.
Thank you.
I will
Appreciate it.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
man. Forever.
Like having you guys.
No,
sit
you're
here-
on this
Me
side
too.
of the desk now. You're over
Oh yeah,
here.
right.
I mean,
I'm
you
the
know
singer.
what?
I'm the
You just
singer
say
now.
thank
Right.
you. You're good. You're part of the thing.
What were you saying?
No, I was saying like it's just like cool to have you. Like every time you guys come in, it's just like they're actually like they're here. Like to me, even though we have people every day, I'm like it's still cool.
That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you, man. Appreciate that.
But also like there's timeless records, there's like generational defining records, there's genre defining records, there's songs that create new genres. You literally check off every box of what I just listed, and you could do 1,000 interviews and not actually cover all of it, and it's
Yeah, that's true.
really powerful. And just thanks for coming in always. It really means the world.
Thank
So
you.
true.
Appreciate it.
Mike and Emily, Linkin Park, everybody.
Good job, man.